Samantha and I had talked about this trip for years. A hiking adventure far from the stress of work and the distractions of daily life. Finally, we found the time. Sam, ever the planner, had everything mapped out. The trails, the restaurants, even a Spotify playlist for our 7-hour drive. It felt like nothing could go wrong. We were hiking a remote trail that wrapped around a stunning crystal blue lake. The air was crisp, the pine trees towered above us, and the sun bathed everything in a warm golden light. It was breathtaking until it wasn't. The trouble started when we rounded a bend, and Sam froze in her tracks. A deer blocked the trail. I nearly bumped into her as I struggled to keep my footing on the loose dirt. The deer tilted its head, staring at us with an unsettling intensity before darting into the woods. "Did you see that?" Sam asked, her voice tight. "The deer? Yeah, it was right there. No, I mean, something was wrong with it. It was drooling and making these weird noises." I laughed nervously and tried to shake it off, but the air between us felt heavier. As we continued, the trail climbed higher, and the scenery grew even more surreal. But so did the sounds from the woods. Something was following us, rustling in the brush just out of sight. I held onto the bear spray in my hand, but Sam's unease was infectious. After hours of hiking, I needed to rest. Sam wandered a few feet into the woods to photograph some wildflowers. That's when I felt a chill creeping down my spine. Something was watching me. The rustling grew louder until it stepped out of the trees. It was the same deer. This time, its eyes looked wrong. Empty. It staggered toward me, its mouth hanging open, drooling, making gurgling noises. My pulse raced as I waved my arms and shouted, trying to scare it off. It didn't flinch. "Sam!" I screamed. She came running, and as she did, the deer disappeared back into the woods. "It's following us," I stammered. "There's something wrong with it." She nodded, her face pale. "Let's just keep moving." We pressed on in silence, but the air felt charged with dread. Eventually, Sam ended up ahead of me again, stopping occasionally to take pictures. That's when I heard her scream, "Sam!" I ran toward her voice, my heart pounding, but the trail beneath me gave way. I fell hard, tumbling down the steep incline, the world spinning around me. When I came to, it was dark. My body ached and my ankle throbbed painfully. Worse still, I couldn't hear Sam anymore. It took everything I had to climb back to the trail. Bloodied and disoriented, I stumbled forward, calling her name. Finally, I saw her. She stood in the middle of the path, bathed in the dim light of my headlamp. Relief washed over me as I limped toward her. "Sam? Are you okay? What happened?" She didn't answer. Her clothes were torn, and she was covered in blood. Her breathing was shallow and rasping, her mouth slightly open. She let me hug her, but her arms hung limp at her sides. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, but I didn't care. She was alive, and that's all that mattered in the moment. As we made our way back to the car, she barely spoke. She walked behind me, her movements slow and unsteady. Every so often, she'd stop and stare back into the woods. When we finally reached the car, I unlocked the doors and guided her inside. Her blank stare unnerved me, but I told myself she was just in shock. I drove as fast as I could, but every time I glanced at her, my stomach churned. Her eyes looked darker now, almost black, and blood smeared her lips. She was drooling. By the time we reached the hospital, I was shaking. I helped her inside, but something was gnawing at the back of my mind. Her shirt was on inside out. It hadn't been earlier. The hospital staff rushed to check on us. They treated my injuries, but when I asked about Sam, their faces grew grim. She was gone. Somehow, she had slipped away, leaving only bloody footprints behind. A few days later, I saw a news report. A partial skeleton had been found on the trail we hiked. They believed it was the victim of an animal attack. I'm certain it was Sam, but if that's true, who or what did I drive into town that night? It's my fault, and I don't know what that thing was that I drove into town. If you live in southern Colorado, please be safe. What if the person you love the most sent you a message, but it wasn't really them? That's exactly what happened to me. It started with a text, a simple, casual message from my girlfriend Thea. But by the end of the night, I wasn't sure if I'd ever see her again. Earlier that day, Thea had gone hiking, like she often did. I should have gone with her, but she always insisted on going alone, claiming I slowed her down. Usually, her hikes lasted about 2 hours, but this time, 4 hours had passed, and she still wasn't home. My gut told me something was wrong. I tried calling her repeatedly, no answer. The only thing I had to go on was our text conversation. I read over it again and again, each time feeling more unsettled. 2:33 p.m. Me. Seen anything cool yet? Thea. Nope. I'll send you pics when I get to the waterfall though. 2:57 p.m. Thea. You're cooking dinner tonight, right? Me. Yup. Chicken pot pie. Thea. Yum. So excited. An hour went by without another message. Then, at 4:06 p.m., Thea texted me again. Thea, I found the waterfall. She sent a selfie her standing in front of the waterfall, smiling. She wore her favorite turquoise earrings, the ones I'd given her on our first anniversary. But something was off. Her arms were crossed in the photo. How could she have taken it? I texted back immediately. Me? Who took that photo? No reply. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling. Maybe she'd asked a passerby to take it. But her silence gnawed at me. By the time another text arrived at 4:53 p.m., my anxiety was through the roof. Thea. Thinking of you. That wasn't like her. Thea never used short, vague messages like that. Me. Did you get my last text? Who took the photo? Thea. I'll be back by dinner. Something felt wrong. Her words didn't sound like her. By 5:37 p.m., she sent another selfie. This time, she was holding the phone herself, standing near the trailhead. But I froze when I noticed a shadow in the background, just behind her. Someone else was there. Dinner went cold. My heart pounded as I stared at her final message. Thea, I'm going to be home late. Sorry. I love you. Somehow, I knew she wasn't the one who sent it. I called the police and went to the trail myself, bringing our dog Gisely. Her car was still in the parking lot, but Thea was nowhere to be found. I called her name as I entered the darkening forest. Thea! No answer. Then, I received a chilling text. You come a little closer. My blood turned to ice. I ran. Gisely barked at my side as I stumbled through the woods. A sound stopped me dead in my tracks, the chime of Thea's phone. It was close. I followed the sound, my flashlight cutting through the trees. But when I reached the source, there was nothing. No phone, no Thea, just silence. The police found her earring near the parking lot. But that was it. The next morning, at 6:42 a.m., I got another text. Thea, I'll see you soon. Attached was a photo. It was dark and grainy. Thea was leaning against a tree, her face obscured by shadows. She looked lifeless. I sent the image to the police, but they had no leads. Days passed with no word from Thea until Friday. My phone rang. The caller ID read, Thea. I answered, my voice trembling. Thea? Please, where are you? No response, just static. Please, don't hurt her, I begged. But the line went dead. I drove back to the trail. As I approached, I saw a plume of smoke rising above the trees. Thea's remains were found in the fire. Even now, I can't believe she's gone. But as I went through old photos of us, I noticed something chilling. In every picture, there was a shadow, a figure, always lurking in the background, watching us. And now, as I sit here writing this, Gazelle has started barking at the window again. I can feel eyes on me. They're still out there. Could an apology turn into a nightmare? Imagine trying to make up for a terrible mistake with someone you love. Paige, my girlfriend who decided to give me a second chance after I cheated on her, wanted our first adventure together to be different. But I am gonna get stuck, I whined. Relax, everybody gets nervous the first time. I wanted to tell Paige she was insane. I wanted to get back in the Jeep and drive to a movie, or somewhere we could get soft serve for Christ's sake. But I was on thin ice, and if my girlfriend wanted to go spelunking for our date, then damn it, we were gonna spelunk. Okay, I trust you, I said, and Paige smirked. Just put in your AirPods and follow my lead, she said. You'll get to stare at my ass the whole way. I was a fan of that part, but everything else terrified me. I followed Paige into the cave, but the tunnel narrowed quickly. Before I knew it, we were crawling on our hands and knees. I tried focusing on the music in my ears, but as the cave shrank, my fear grew. We were on our stomachs now, dragging ourselves like soldiers under barbed wire. I need a second, I wheezed. A little further, and it'll open up. Give me a second, please. Okay, she said. I am going ahead though. I was gonna argue, but I knew better. I was lucky she took me back at all after my night with that girl from the bar. We flirted for hours, and I never intended on cheating. But then she came in for a kiss, and I didn't stop her. When Paige took me back, I promised I'd do anything to make our relationship work. Even crazy shit like this. I started crawling after her, but I didn't make it far before the cave tightened even further. The ceiling was scraping against my back now, and I was having trouble breathing. I heard a call ding in my ears, and after struggling, I double-tapped my AirPods to answer. It was Paige. Are you coming? She asked. I am not gonna fit, babe. I am freaking out. Okay, don't panic. If you panic, you'll use up all the air and you'll suffocate. What? I am kidding. Geez, lighten up. Just crawl backwards until the cave widens enough for you to turn around. I'll meet you back at the entrance. She hung up. I started shimmying backwards, but no matter how far I went, the cave didn't get any wider. I crawled and crawled and crawled until Paige eventually called again. Don't be mad, but here is something I have to admit to you, she said. Those were the exact words I used when I confessed to cheating. What? I said, trying and failing not to sound afraid. I never told you the name of these caves. Okay? They're called the Dead Man Caves on account of how easy it is to get lost. Don't worry, I am sure you are almost out. Just keep crawling. She hung up again. I followed her advice, but then two things happened at once. First, my AirPods started beeping that their batteries were low. Second, my feet hit a dead end. Do you trust the one leading you in the dark? Or do your past mistakes haunt you forever?